certainly glad you could join me today.
Amy Winehouse is undoubtedly one of the most influential musicians of the 21st century. It's not often that you get an artist who just had it all. The look, the unique style and presence, the authenticity, and the realness and vulnerability inside and outside her music. For me, she was one of the first artists whose music I really connected with on a more personal level. There was this notion that the pop star had to be this perfect figure. Amy Winehouse wasn't that, and she never tried to hide any of her flaws. She was just a genuine person who had a true passion for expressing herself. She wore her heart on her sleeve and was never shy about speaking on her personal struggles through her music. Whether it was depression, addiction, or relationship dilemmas, she was always honest about what she was going through. And this really paved the way for artists like Adele, Lady Gaga, Florence and the Machine, Lana Del Rey to flourish in the 2010s, and we saw a rise of female pop stars who were authentically themselves and didn't have the perfect image that they were expected to have. Through their style, appearance, and lyrical content, being more truthful about their personal life, which resonated to so many people going through the same things. It's insane how relevant she remains when she only ever released 2 albums, but that should be a testament as to how big of a mark she left. It's been 21 years since Amy Winehouse released her debut album, Frank, which is now older than she was at the time that she wrote it, which is wild to think about. It was the first album by Amy that I listened to in its entirety after knowing of her and hearing songs like Back to Black and Rehab, of course, and I still feel blown away by just how ahead of its time this album really is. Obviously, she's more known for the Back to Black era, but this album should not go unappreciated. It's so impressive how she was able to blend so many different genres and inspirations to create her own very unique sound. It's a jazz album at heart, but it blends elements of hip-hop, soul, R&B so very well. It's done effortlessly in songs like In My Bed, which is such a banger of a track. I love everything about it. The beats, the melodies, the grooves in this song. When I was re-listening to this album, I just could not get past this song. I just kept playing it over and over, and it gets better each time. There's some hilarious lines in this song, or What Is It About Men, in which Amy reflects on her own self-destructive behavior when it comes to starting relationships knowingly with the wrong man, or the fact that she's repeating her father's mistakes and being that other woman who a taken man is cheating with. There's an incredible amount of imagery and substance and depth on this album in her lyricism for being a debut album, and she was only 19 when she wrote it, but she goes deeply into feelings of love, betrayal, desperation, rejection, pain, heartbreak, and it's just so direct and so brutally honest that it's kind of jarring. Some of the lyrics on this album, like in Stronger Than Me, I don't know if some of the lyrics on this song would really fly today, but it's kind of just so Amy. It's edgy and it doesn't hold back any punches. My favorite track though has to be You Sent Me Flying, where Amy goes into how she's usually a very self-confident, prideful woman, but she's been bending herself backwards for this man whom she is in love with but is ultimately dumped by and sent flying because of her younger age, and she was sent flying because that rejection really hurt her ego. She's so self-aware though of the fact that she is bending herself backwards for this man due to her feelings and being so infatuated with him. It's just so introspective and mature, and you really wouldn't expect that level of maturity in songwriting from a 19-year-old. Then there's tracks like Fuck Me Pumps on the other side of the spectrum, a more humorous song about gold digging party girls who have one night stands. So much charm and personality and charisma just oozes off of this track. Or I Heard Love Is Blind, where Amy sings rather nonchalantly about the fact that she cheated on her boyfriend with a man who looks like her boyfriend.
No, see, no. See, look, I thought it was you. It looked like you. You know what I'm saying? You got that same stupid looking haircut. Like honestly, he could be a twin brother for real. I mean, like it might as well have been you. And I was thinking about you the whole time. You know what I'm saying? So like, I admit, you know, he was packing a lot more. I was like, whoa, where did this come from?
You can really see her versatility as a songwriter, and in some songs how she's able to be very vulnerable and introspective, and in other songs she's clearly just having fun and being more humorous and witty and sarcastic with her songwriting. Then there's songs like Amy, 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 which brings out more of her sultry side as she has this irresistible desire to be with the man. Only thing is that man is her science teacher. Really sounds like a song you'd hear in a jazz bar. And then she brings you back to more deep self-reflection on a track like Take the Box. Honestly, one of her most underrated tracks, where Amy is dealing with those feelings of sadness and regret and anger after ending a relationship. It's extremely relatable, and the vocal melodies are some of the best on the entire album. I also thoroughly enjoyed the vocal melodies on October Song, a very fun, upbeat little track with those nice jazzy drums and guitar. And it's about Amy's actual pet canary, Ava, who passed away. The result was this beautiful song that really brought out Amy's lyrical poetry, and I hope Amy is flying right there with her. There's also a few jazz standards on here, like Moody's Mood for Love and There Is No Greater Love, that I actually didn't even know were covers because Amy did such a good job at making them feel like they were her songs. Frank doesn't have that sense of grandeur that Back to Black has, but there's always been this sort of charm that it has for me. It's youthful, it's more funny, it's playful. Amy was healthier in these years, and it's as close as a look as we can get to how she was before the fame. After the release of Frank is when everything would change for Amy, for better or worse. She moved to the Camden Town neighborhood of London. She met Blake Fiedler, and in 2006 she recorded the album she's most known for, Back to Black. This was the album that earned her the fame that she had longed for, but that she was never fully able to handle. Now, Back to Black is a different beast entirely, and there's a reason why it won 5 Grammys. And if you put it side by side to Frank, it feels like these two albums were made by two completely different people. As good as an album Frank is, nothing would suggest that it would lead to what Back to Black is. And in those 3 years between Frank and Back to Black, Amy had gone through some shit. You could tell by her new look, her new attitude, and her new music. Just take the lyrics of the iconic lead single, Rehab, for example. Clearly whatever shit Amy had went through wasn't great. They are literally begging her to go to rehab. The song is phenomenal. The lyrics are worrying. Salam Remy, the producer of Frank, was joined by Mark Ronson, who made the call to relocate the recording sessions to Brooklyn's Daptone Studios. They then employed their house band, the Dap Kings, who were key to giving this album that grittier sound. Amy's voice on this album sounds incredible. Nobody could have sang these songs better than her. Nobody. She conveys so much emotion with her vocals. You feel every word that she is saying, and it's what she is saying that really makes these songs so powerful and more deeply delves into several heavy emotions that she was feeling in her life at the time. The main one being the utter sadness of heartbreak. Heartbreak she felt after her brutal breakup with Blake, who left her for his ex-girlfriend. No song captures the pain that Amy felt about this breakup more than the title track, Back to Black. Black being the metaphor for the depression that Amy fell back into after the split. Heart-crushingly gorgeous, to sum it up. It sounds like what attending a funeral feels like. You can feel the pain in her voice. You can feel that Amy is mourning something that was lost. And what was lost was Amy's belief that she'd ever find love again. That belief is further explored in Love Is a Losing Game, an extremely vulnerable ballad where Amy goes into her feelings on how it feels like love doesn't ever have a positive outcome for her. And although she battles blind and tries to love wholeheartedly, ultimately it all falls apart in the end. And she loses the game. Over and over and over, she loses this game of love, leading to more loneliness and confusion. This song is beautifully simplistic, yet perfectly conveys her relationship with love. Complexities that get even more complex on a song like Just Friends. And much like that term, just friends, they're never really just friends, are they? They can't be just friends because her feelings for him are way too strong, and it hurts that she can't touch him and be with him as something more because he's with somebody else. The motherfucking Dap Kings kill it once again with the production on this track. as they do this entire album. And y'all know I love a good saxophone, and it sounds great here, as it does on He Can Only Hold Her, which is a nice little jazzy track where Amy is reflecting on her relationship with, I assume, Blake, in a third person manner, basically saying that her heart was always with him even when she was with other men. Speaking of other men, it gets even more complex on You Know I'm No Good, where Amy talks about her own mistakes and her own infidelity with other men, blaming her addictions and saying that I cheated myself rather than I cheated on you, as a way to shift the blame onto herself. However, she warns him that she was trouble when she walked in. So throughout the song, she's trying to excuse herself for what she did and suggest that he is just as much at fault as she is. There's so many layers to this relationship just being peeled back that culminates in the final verse. Who truly stuck the knife in first? She is such a good storyteller. I mean, you can just visualize everything. Like in Me and Mr. Jones, you can really just visualize the fuckery. You can visualize the fuckery here. The audacity. The audacity to make her miss the slick. I can't even. To make her miss the Slick Rick, the motherfucking Slick Rick concert? You made her miss it? I never knew that this song was about her relationship with Nas, actually. They also have the same birthday, too, which is kind of wild, just a decade apart. I think Tears Dry on Their Own is the closest thing to positive that this album gets. It feels like that little crack of light on an album that is shrouded in darkness. I interpreted it as it being Amy acknowledging that yes, there is sadness. There's bound to be sadness. There's bound to be more trauma. And of course, there's bound to be tears from this breakup, but those tears will dry and she will get over it. And better days are just around the corner. Better days that I wish she had the chance to see. I think it's the songs that focus more heavily on her substance addiction that really get me, because that was what ultimately did lead to her downfall. Wake Up Alone being the peak of that. It's unfortunately a very prophetic song of her fate. She knows alcohol isn't good for her. She knows what it does to her, but she just can't help herself. She can't help but to want that relief that it gives her, to the point where it feels like the bottle itself is taunting her and persuading her, trying to coax her into drinking to avoid her problems, to the point where she has no control. And it feels like she's the one pouring herself over it. Her voice sounds so soulful on this track. And the fucking imagery, like feeling like you are in that room with her on that night, feeling everything that she is feeling. It's just amazing. I mean, it's just amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing how she's able to convey that through music. Some Unholy War is another example of how she conveys these feelings so deeply. And it has the heaviest lyric on the entire album, where Amy is claiming that she would have literally died for Blake, and she would like to. I think the message of this song goes far beyond just being there for your partner and sticking with them through thick and thin, into something more deeply disturbing. What Blake said in the 2015 Amy documentary makes it more apparent on how harmful this kind of relationship was for Amy to have. The album concludes with the track Addiction. If it feels like, compared to the themes of the album, this song feels like it's out of place or sticks out like a sore thumb, that's because this song was made during the Frank era. It's a very playful track to end off what has been a deeply depressing album. The last verse feels like it could be some sort of acceptance to everything else that was said on the album, but I don't think Amy's mindset was at all aligned with the message of that last verse. In the end, being alone was what ultimately destroyed her. I often find myself just wishing that things went better for Amy Winehouse. I wish she had stayed far away from Blake. I wish she had a better support system and was able to beat this addiction. I wish we could have gotten a few more records, or if not, I wish she could just be living the rest of her life away from all the fame, maybe playing at some small jazz clubs from time to time. I even found myself wishing that she had never made this album, thinking that somehow maybe that would have changed things, as if it mattered matters that I occasionally wish for these things, which history cannot be changed. I can only hope that we've learned from those mistakes to not get her the help that she so obviously needed, and to instead belittle and make fun of her, and that we don't let this happen to another artist. She would have been 41 years old, and that genuinely breaks my heart. I don't want to only remember Amy for her final years and her tragic end. I want to remember her as she was, a beautiful, insanely talented artist who remained true to herself and created a legacy that will never die.
I'm not forgot till